If you need a bit of an intro to Kingdom Animalia, I encourage you to check out the companion video to this one, which is like an appetizer to this main course. Before we begin, it's important to note that our phyla are going to be ordered in a general pattern of simple to complex. And even though many of us think that animals are just those that have a backbone, as you will soon see, there are way more invertebrates, those without a backbone, than there are vertebrates. Now, don't get me wrong, vertebrates have way stronger marketing and PR, but it's really the invertebrates that are going to dominate Kingdom Animalia in terms of numbers and diversity. So let's start just with a refresher. Phyla are going to be a classification grouping that is more inclusive, meaning it contains more diversity than the species level, but far less inclusive than the domain and the kingdom level. So domain, kingdom, phyla, class, genus, species. Let's start with Phylum Porifera. Phylum Porifera are the tube-like sponges found mostly in marine environments, but some species do enjoy that freshwater lifestyle. Phylum Porifera are considered the simplest animals and the only phyla that lacks true tissues. But don't feel sorry for Phylum Porifera because they are competing just fine, thank you very much. Next up is Phylum Cnidaria. Phylum Cnidaria is a phylum with about 9,000 living species. Nearly all members of Phylum Cnidaria are found in saltwater, but a few species can be seen live in that freshwater life. Cnidarians are considered to have what we call a radial symmetrical body plan, where this is going to be a major evolutionary shift from Phylum Porifera, as their bodies have distinct and true tissues, although no true organs. Some of the celebrity members of Phylum Cnidaria are jellyfish, which, by the way, are neither made out of actual jelly or actual fish. Also, hydras, Portuguese men of war, sea anemones, sea pens, sea whips, sea fans, really all the sea things, and my favorite, corals, which make up the coral reefs that are the most diverse and productive marine ecosystems, helping to give actual fish a home, warm water divers something to look at, and the entire planet oxygen. Thanks, coral reefs. Next up is going to be Phylum Platyhelminthes, the flatworms. Members of Phylum Platyhelminthes can be found living in marine, freshwater, terrestrial habitats, and in the case of parasitic species, inside another organism. But not to worry, most members of Platyhelminthes are going to be living the free life like planarians, although there are some parasitic species like tapeworms in this phyla that are busy infecting other perfectly nice organisms. Next up is Phylum Nematoda, and these are what we call the roundworms. This is a pretty large group, about 20,000 or so described species worldwide, and come in free-living and parasitic forms. Nematodes can be found on land as well as in salt and freshwater habitats. Our third worm phylum is going to be Phylum Annelida, the segmented worms, which they're sporting at what we call a true coelom, which is a body cavity completely bound by mesoderm. Annelids comprise about 15,000 or so known species from marine, freshwater, and terrestrial environments, and their bodies are going to be a series of repeating segments, where each segment comes with its very own nervous system, circulatory, reproductive, muscular, and excretory system. So, members of the next phylum contain species that all of us have probably run from at least some time in our lives. This is going to be Phylum Arthropoda, the jointed-legged animals. This is the largest phylum in the Kingdom Animalia, and some of these celebrity members include spiders, mites, millipedes, insects, lobsters, and crabs. Arthropods are found in every major habitat on our planet, even the Arctic ones. So if you've ever ran away from the last phyla, then you might have eaten our next phyla, Phylum Mollusca. This is going to be the snails, clams, mussels, squid, octopi, and friends. And the mollusks are the largest phyla after the arthropods and mainly saltwater dwellers, although some bivalves and gastropods can be found in fresh, and as few gastropods are going to live on land. Okay, so our next phyla you might have spotted at the beach tide pools and yelled, "Starfish!" But Phylum Cnidaria, the sea stars and their relatives, sea urchins and sea cucumbers, these are actually going to not be fish, they're going to be sea stars. And they're going to be roughly about 7,000 species of echinoderms, and they're all going to be marine, and they've evolved some pretty amazing adaptations for surviving in rough environments. Last but not least is our most complex phyla, Phylum Chordata. The chordates, which includes subphylum Vertebrata, everyone's favorite rockstar animal taxa. Now, Everything we discussed up until now have all been invertebrates, and even in Phylum Chordata, you can have invertebrate members. To be in Phylum Chordata, you just need a notochord, and what we call a spinal cord in humans, but to be in subphylum Vertebrata, you need a backbone. And this is when we have finally arrived to the taxa that we all know and love. Sharks, fish, frogs, turtles, birds, and monkeys. All the following classes are nested under Phylum Chordata in subphylum Vertebrata. So we have class Chondrichthyes for the sharks and their relatives that are going to have cartilaginous skeletons and super tough skin as well as small tooth-like scales. The bony fish will be in class Osteichthyes with their body made of bony skeleton and a scale covering it. With the frogs, toads, newts, and salamanders, they're going to be in class Amphibia, which means double life, since almost all amphibians have an aquatic larval stage before metamorphizing into an adult that is most likely terrestrial and looks nothing like the fish-like baby self. This metamorphosis evolved as a survival adaptation, but amphibians are not the only ones to have some pretty complex evolutionary adaptations. We have our final three classes of vertebrates, who, like amphibians, are also considered tetrapods, aka four-limbed animals. These are going to be our reptiles, our class Reptilia, the birds, class Aves, and the mammals, class Mammalia. Reptiles are lizards, snakes, tortoises, turtles, crocodiles, and they're especially skilled at living in hot, dry environments. Our feathered birds in class Aves and our furry milk-producing mammals in class Mammalia round out this long list of kingdom Animalia. Phew! I know that was a fast-paced version of a lot of animals, so I encourage you to give this one another play and make sure that the captions are on so that you can get the right proper spelling. Well, until next time, thank you for joining me on Exploring Environmental Biology.